Coming to you from Lost Tomb of the Pharaohs. It's the little podcast of horrors with James, Christina, and Chris.
What's up, everybody? It's another episode of, you guessed it, little podcast of horrors.
We talk about pillows and pillow-related accessories.
Do you have erectile dysfunction? If so, you come to the right place.
Not where how did you go from pillows to erectile dysfunction?
I don't know. You lay down on pillows.
Pillows over there, dude.
Pillow talk is obviously sexual.
Yeah, man. Pillow talk, man. You laying down on the pillow, you're not sleeping, but obviously you're not having sex either, because Mr. Happy ain't very happy.
I was saying, if I was gonna sell pillows, I would name it Pillow Talk. Or if I had a pillow-themed podcast, I would also call it Pillow Talk.
I feel like that would just, I don't know, like if you heard this new podcast, it's about pillows. What do they talk about? Just pillows. That's it? It's like, hello, pillow people. Oh my God, let's get off of this. Hey guys!
Pillow people.
We've already probably lost, like, oh my God, they're still talking about pillows. I came here for like the weird, crazy stuff, and they're like talking
still here and into season 3. They know what they're here for.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They're just kind of like, here they go again.
You have no one but yourself to blame now.
They're going off on their tangent again. Let's just let it roll here. Let's just fast forward a little bit. There we go.
Hello. What are we drinking?
Sounded like Mrs. Doubtfire there. You're like, hello.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Thank you.
I am having a delicious. Yeah, no. We're talking me first. It's me first. Because we all know that James gonna be like, I am trying this delicious, delectable concoction made from brandy and cognac and a slice of lemon, and it's called an oopsie doopsie Cola. And I'm over here like, I'm just drinking bourbon and Coke out of my Coca-Cola glass. I mean, that's what I'm drinking. And James over there sipping out of his little martini glass. They'd be like, oh, little peasant. That's so precious. Well,
with his pinky out.
With his pinky out.
Sure.
Yeah. And just be like, I'm sure that took you all of 2 seconds, whereas I shook this quite gently against the air conditioner because you only wanted it 67 degrees. You just make sure that the ice is perfect. Make sure that they're nice and square. As I'm saying this, anyway, he can't see. He just takes like this very cocky drink out of this big wine. He's looking right.
You're making me want to sip, and I took a sip.
He's looking right at me, guys. He was looking right at me, like
I was looking right at the camera, like a professional.
I know you're looking at me. You're staring into my soul. What do you drink?
Looking at the camera for our audio podcast because that matters.
So I'm guessing you're drinking some kind of wine.
Yes.
What are you drinking?
No, you didn't. You gotta finish your turn.
I did. I'm done.
Oh, okay.
It looks like it's a red wine.
This is a real shit show.
Is it dry? is it dry? Is it a dry red wine? No, I'm gonna say that maybe it's semi-sweet. Is it semi-sweet? It looks like
sure,
a dark,
why not?
It looks like a dark red.
Yeah, it's dark red. It's a Tempranillo mixed with something else I can't remember, but it's a blend. Tempranillo and something else. And I love my Tempranillos. But yeah, it's from a winery, if you will, from Kerrville, Texas, a.k.a. middle of nowhere, Central Texas, which surprisingly, like if you ever happen to be through middle of nowhere, Central Texas, there has been an explosion of like really good wineries out there. So,
oh wow.
Anywho, we were and beers, because there's at least German beers, because Fredericksburg, which is nearby, it's like a historically German town, and of course, so if you want to get your Oktoberfest on, that's another good spot to hit. Anywho, so that's where my wine, that's where my wine is from, and I like it.
We're glad.
That's my story.
We're glad that you like it. I would not understand if you didn't like it, but we're drinking it anyway.
Okay, anyway, I'm drinking a Blue Wing from local brewery, Flyway. So that's here in North Little Rock. Now
Oh.
I'm triangulating my location.
Ever so gradually.
Yeah. But
Location
it's super good. It's berry
identified.
wheat ale, so it's really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen that. Oh, that. I've heard the good things about that. Friend of ours, Alex, she's brought some of that over, or well, from Flyaway Brewery in the past.
It's my favorite of theirs. All right, so who has the story today?
Me.
James. And he's
Okay.
gonna be getting his 1980s adventurous Indiana Jones story in the groove kind of story. I'm very excited about this.
Is that what I'm doing?
I mean,
I don't know what you're talking about, but
I'm just
let's
saying
get
this. I
going.
just get a feeling that the story is going to be so good it might melt your face off.
Oh wow, that's
It
a big sell.
claymate you to death.
It may claymate you to death.
Just saying.
Don't look.
That's a big sell to live up to.
Don't look. Close your eyes. Just listen.
So we're talking about an arc, and not one that floats on the water, one that melts your face off. It's the Ark of the Covenant.
As I say, anybody who already figured it out with the references, you definitely need to sign up for our Patreon now because we're about to be best friends. Because then you get to hang out on our Discord.
Anyone who didn't get that reference, where have you been for the last century?
Yeah, you living under a rock?
So yeah, we're talking some Ark of the Covenant, baby.
Sweet.
So right out the gate, let me give you my references, which will, I guess, a little spoilery given the nature of the references, but even the references are good, man. I'm proud of this references list, especially because I went a little bit extra on this. I didn't want to half-ass this one, so like we did some deep digging on this one. So boom, references. I started basic with some Wikipedia, and then I went from there to some National Geographic for some Ark of the Covenant information. Bounced on over to phys.org, a major physics kind of sciencey site.
Fancy.
Onto ancientcode.com, then to Universe Inside You, took a stop at UFO Digest, and then to end my sources, the Bible.
Oh well, the ultimate reference.
What? The Bible? Who would have thought? The Ark of the Covenant.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
But that's where you'd find Ark and Ark related information. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of a disclaimer to assuage any potential expectations. It's a good disclaimer. I'm just saying, you know, as you may know from previous episodes, like I'm a believer kind of guy. I'm not a you know, conservative, fundy evangelical type, but I'm a Christian and pretty passionate about it. And I'm a Bible nerd, but you know, don't worry, it's not gonna be any preaching to you or anything like that. I'm setting all my biases aside, and we're gonna go balls to the wall with what the Ark of the Covenant is about. All right, so just strap in. If you know my episodes, you got to feel for where we're going.
He just said balls and strap in, like right back to back, and already I'm concerned.
That's good. Yeah. All right, so let's start off talking about exactly what this little ark is, if you're not already a bit familiar with it. So, the Ark of the Covenant was built, we're about 3,000-ish years ago, all right? And it was prominent in Jewish history for about 500 years. It's quite a bit of a, you know, streak of fame there. So in that 500 years, it spans from its origins with Moses. It crosses through some King David and his son King Solomon, and goes all the way to the divided kingdom when, you know, the kingdom of Israel splits into Israel and Judah. So it's like it saw a lot of some old school Jewish history there. It's a lot of years under the belt. So this thing was basically, it's a gold plated chest. It's got its bling, and it was made of me not knowing how to pronounce this, but there's a few different words of it. So pick your favorite. A type of wood that is referred to as shittim wood, shita wood, or acacia wood. Those
I'm
are all.
sorry. Or just shit 'em wood. Like,
You're gonna do that.
shit 'em wood. You need the right kind of wood for your Ark of the Covenant. Do you not want your face melted off? Well, we're bringing you shit 'em wood. That's right.
So it's from the shita tree,
Of
which
course it
grows.
is.
This is a tree that grows in the Sinai Desert around the Jordan River Valley. That's where you find this particular type of tree.
It's the shit 'em wood from that shitta tree from Sinai Desert. It'll kill you.
I mean, in this form it will, but spoilers. Anywho, so the Ark is a big box, gold-plated box, wood gold-plated box. So it was constructed with a gold lid, and the lid was called the mercy seat. So it was basically this elaborately designed lid that had two figures of cherubim on top, one on each end, with a space between them. And so the idea was that the space between the cherubim on top of the ark was where Yahweh, the Hebrew name for God, would appear and dwell. So like we're right between those two cherubim on the lid. That's where he hangs out. So, and believe me, these details are going to be important in a bit.
Is it like a conduit?
Hold that. I find myself saying this all the time, but hold that thought.
Okay, sorry.
Hold that conduit thought. Conduit's a key word for the day.
Okay.
All right. So the ark contained 2 stone tablets, not just any old 2 stone tablets. It's not that boring, but the 10 Commandments. Those 2 stone tablets.
The very ones that
Pretty big deal.
Charlton Heston carried himself.
Yes, the real deal, the authentic Charlton Heston 10 Commandments. So from the Christian addition to the lore is that the New Testament will tell you that also contained Aaron's rod and a pot of manna. So if you're familiar at all with what manna is in Jewish lore, it's was basically like miraculous, like directly from God materialized food, if you will, during.
So this thing was from, what was it again? We said shitter wood from a shitter tree from the Sinai Desert, and it had Aaron's rod.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, I wouldn't put it that way, but I guess you can frame it that way if you so wish. So the reason that all these things coincide together is because they kind of happen at the same time. God gave, according to Jewish record, the Old Testament, we put it in Christian terms, God gave Moses the pattern, like told Moses like how to build it at the time that they were on during the Exodus at Mount Sinai, when God also gave Moses the 10 Commandments. All this happened at the same time, more or less. So Moses gets the 10 Commandments and ark building instructions. So a little bit of, moral code, a little bit of IKEA, if you will.
Charlton Heston, I shall bestow upon you these 10 mighty commandments, and then instructions on how to build the perfect container so great that Harrison Ford will search for it himself.
And a little hex wrench. Because you know how like IKEA things, all IKEA kits always come with hex wrenches.
That's yes.
And here's here's 5 hex wrenches. You only need 1, so you'll wonder why you have the other 4.
And there's always some screws left over.
Yeah. Just random screws. Like, did I miss something?
They'll wonder for eternity, did I miss one? Why is there one short screw? Go forth, Charlton Heston. Do my will.
So, but where was I? So Moses gets the instructions. He in turn instructs his boys again I can't pronounce stuff, but Bazalel. So he in turn instructs his boys Bezalel and Aholiab to build it. And they do the IKEA instruction building. So it was carried via staves by the Levites, which was a particular sect of Jewish priests, and they would carry it 2,000 cubits, which, if the particular source I was reading was correct, was about 2,600 feet ahead of everyone else when they were marching about, with the Ark of the Covenant.
I never heard the term cubit before, so
yeah, cubits was one of the units of measurement in Old Testament times.
okay.
All right, so before we go further down this, let's talk about those IKEA instructions, because it's interesting, like how just the scriptures like go down into the specifics on this sucker. So I'm not going to get too into the weeds, but just to give you some figures, to give you some mental imagery, this thing was it was to be built 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits in breadth, and 1.5 cubits high. Which again, if my conversion figures I was referencing are correct, that would mean it was 52 by 31 by 31 inches.
Okay.
So to put that in more visual terms, it was about the size of a 19th century seaman's chest. So it could
I have
double.
no idea what that means. Like,
It just means that you could store your Ten Commandments in it, or you could store your booty of plundered gold on your pirate ship. Either way, it could serve both purposes. Is what
I mean,
I'm
if it's good enough for Aaron's rod,
oh boy.
I mean,
Thank you. So the whole thing, as I said, was gilded entirely in gold, and had a gold crown, a gold molding around it. All right. So just a couple more details here. It also had and again, these details are going to come and be important later. So take notes.
yeah, George Lucas did.
He did. It had 4 rings of gold attached to each of its 4 corners, 2 on each side. And it had, try to contain yourself, Chris, shittim wood staves, poles, if you will, that were overlaid with gold. And they were inserted through those rings so that people could carry the ark around with said staves. Now, the kind of weird rule about those staves is part of the instructions was they were never to be removed. So even if it's not in transit, you got to keep the staves on. I like to think that was just practical, because you never know when you got to get up and go in a hurry and haul butt with your Ark of the Covenant. So just always keep it in mobile mode.
The staves stay. Okay.
Stay.
Nailed it.
So, in irony here, despite this thing being like blinged to the max, if you will, the ark had to be hidden under a veil. Like, not even the priests who were carrying it were allowed to look at it.
Oh. Well,
'Cause
what
their
would
face would
happen
melt
if you
off?
looked at
Their face would
Yeah.
melt off.
Yeah, you get claymated to death. I mean, that's
Come on.
just by looking at it? So wait. God asked humans to build something that they can't even look at, or their faces will melt off. Is that what you're telling me?
So I don't know if Indiana Jones movie was correct about the faces melting. I just know you weren't supposed to look at it. Take it as you will.
So I'm making a joke.
Kinda weird.
You're really actually not supposed to look at it.
Yeah. So
That seems really impractical and impossible.
no, we're gonna get a lot more impractical. Don't worry. But so not only were you not supposed to look at it, you also weren't allowed to touch it. Staves notwithstanding, the ark proper, you couldn't touch it. And it could only be carried by priests, and even they couldn't touch it. There's no touchy the arky, okay? No touchy under any circumstances.
Don't touch it.
Yep. All right. So just remember those tidbits for later. They're going to come back around.
Okay.
When we do some science.
Oh, sciencing.
Science!
My specialty.
So, The Ark of the Covenant is more famous for the miracles accompanied by it. So let's just give you a quick Cliff Notes rundown of those miracles for the uninitiated in Ark of the Covenant lore.
Okay.
So is basically the narrative presented as pretty dangerous. Like, it was a very powerful artifact. It could both save people or destroy them depending on how it was employed. For example, the Ark could be used to remove obstacles. So during the 40-year exodus of the Israelites, the Ark would be handy dandy in clearing the path in front of them by removing poisonous animals and all sorts of other obstacles that were in the way. Some would say by blasting energy at said obstacles from the cherubim on top.
Oh shit.
Some would say. In another incident, when the Israelites were trying to cross the Jordan River to get to the Promised Land, the Jordan River. If you ever been to the Jordan River, I haven't, but if you have, you might know that one doesn't just traipse across the Jordan River. It's not a creek; it's a river.
I do have water from the River Jordan.
Oh, you do?
You do? How'd you get that?
Your brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
He went
So the Ark stopped the flow of the Jordan River so that Joshua and his troops could cross it into the Promised Land. So that was about, we date that around, the estimate is around 1400 BC, if you will. So completely just pauses the Jordan River long enough for everybody to get across, and then unpauses it. So it's a pretty powerful little box so far, if you will.
Pause.
Yeah.
Just pause. Go. Unpause.
That's exactly how the scriptures tell it.
Well, yeah, but I'm wondering, like, what's the process of making the box do that?
I have no idea. The how-tos weren't particularly important to the narrative.
They're like, we don't want you doing this sorcery.
right. So one of my favorites is when the Israelites besieged Jericho. They by instruction of God beforehand, and following said instruction, they carried the Ark around the city for a week. And during this event, like, they're blowing trumpets and stuff and doing their whole thing, just marching the Ark around the city before they do a siege. And after the week of marching around about it, the Ark of the Covenant causes the city walls to fall, so that the Israelites can just waltz right in and do a siege. We're going to come back to that. So
Okay.
I just love how they're like announcing their sieges with trumpets. It's like you're there in the town, and all of a sudden you just hear like, oh no, they're gonna siege us again. What is that sound? They always play trumpets when they're about to siege us. Like they don't. It's what are they thinking?
So some hundreds of years later, so this is going to be around 1100 BC. This one is interesting, and again, we're going to revisit it. The Israelites brought the Ark with them into battle against the Philistines, and that's per the Book of Samuel. But the thing about this particular thing, God didn't order that war. It was unsanctioned, and he wasn't a big fan of using the Ark as a weapon of war. So he let the Philistines win that one, and the Philistines took the Ark.
Oh shit!
Yes,
your Ark is mine.
So the way the story follows, and again, we're going to revisit this because this is fun, and it's part of some of the theories that are going to come up. But the Philistines, they take the Ark and they place it in the house of Dagon, their god, the temple to their god Dagon, and this is in their town of Ashdod. So the problem that they run into is every morning they come up to the temple and find that the statue of Dagon has fallen on its face, and they put it back up. Come back next morning, it's fallen on its face. And this happens a few times over until finally they come in one day and they just find the statue not only fallen over, but like Dagon's head and his hands have been cut off.
Oh,
Right. So that's the point. The Philistines go, yeah, okay, we're done. We're done. It's enough of this art business. My bad. So
And then from then on, we known him as Stumpy.
no, that's the werewolf. Come on.
Oh, that's right.
oh, throwback.
Throwback to
It was
season
throwback,
one.
So meanwhile, while the statue shenanigans are going on, the people of Ashdod are stricken with tumors. So all the more reason that they're like, we're done. We're getting rid of this thing. Like, we're playing hot potato, enough arc stuff. So going like throwing the hands up, going, we're done with this thing. We don't want tumors and God's falling over. So they play hot potato with the ark. They toss it to another Philistine town. But
They tossed it with a catapult. It's like, take this ark. We don't want it. And they'd be like, oh shit.
I mean, the tone of the narrative does kind of make it sound that way almost. I wouldn't be
It
surprised.
sounds like a Monty Python skit. Like, get rid of it. Catapult.
So it gets taken to the Philistine town of Gath. So Gath gets the ark, and then they get stricken with panic and tumors. So they move it to the next town, Ekron, and their people go, hold up. Why are you giving it to us?
yeah, what's going on with this thing?
Would you like some cancer?
So at this point, Ekron goes, nope, not it. And that's when the Philistines collectively goes, like, you know what? Let's just give it back to the Israelites. This could go back to being their problem. We're done. It's not worth the trouble. So they call it quits, and they return the ark to the village of Beth Shemesh. Now, what's funny about that story, and there's a lot more details to it, but my favorite part of it is, these are pagans, but they believe in multiple gods, so they're seeing this as, we have our gods, but the Jews have their god too, and oops, we pissed it off by accident. So, not only are so to try to appease this god that they don't know, when they give the ark back to the Jews, they throw in some extra swag as a guilt offering. It's like, my bad, you have it back, and here's some extra goodies as a care package, okay? Sorry, okay?
We got some caramel
But what I
chocolates.
love about this, there was a lot of like gold stuff that they threw into it, and I just from my 2000s modern brain looking back upon this, one of the things they included were gold tumors.
What?
It's like, we got a bunch of tumors, so we're gonna suppose part of our sorry gifts, we're gonna give you some gold in the shape of tumors. So I guess it made sense at the time, but that's kind of a little crazy if you ask me.
It is a tumor, and it's gold. It's great. Just take it. It is a tumor.
Again, I'm sure it was a great idea at the time, but like, I don't get it. It's a little weird if you ask me.
Maybe like, please take these tumors away. We're gonna give you this gold, and we're gonna, like, kind of a magical thing. Like, here's gold. I'm gonna put it in the shape of a tumor, so that when you take this, you take the tumors away too.
That's kind of the line I was supposing when I was going over that. I mean, probably. I don't have a better reason. I'll tell you that. Other than, we're going to give them gold, but for our trouble, we're going to troll them a bit and give them in the shape of tumors.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of both,
So those are the big popular, miracles found throughout Old Testament history. And by miracles, what we really mean are aliens.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
It always means aliens.
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Aliens.
So, if we go consult 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 3, that particular story, the Ark of the Covenant, talks. It's a talking ark. So when this story takes place in a period where, and let me frame this as like, most of us who know some Old Testament know that it was an era in which like supernatural stuff was pretty commonplace. Like talking directly to God happened a lot, like audibly, right? So
Right.
but this particular story takes place during a period where that was no longer true. It's been a dry spell, if you will. So during this period where there haven't been a lot of visions, there hasn't been a lot of the word of the Lord, as the text puts it, going around. There's this kid named Samuel, and the story says that he did not yet know the Lord, so he's a noob. He's chilling out in the Jewish temple, just chilling out. He's lying down in the temple, just having a lazy day. And God calls him by name from the ark, the voice of God directly emitting from the ark.
Like its full name? Like, you're in trouble when like somebody's all like full name. And if it's coming from the Ark of the Covenant, like
Right.
shit's about to hit the fan.
So if you'll indulge me for a brief moment, I do have to let my Bible nerd show a little bit, because this story is hilarious.
But only a brief moment.
Only a brief moment, says the Catholic. So no, but this is funny to anybody if you ask me. But so this story, and as it relates to the ark, but the story is just weird because in my opinion, this reads like God just trolling a kid for the fun of it. So because and if you know Samuel, he ends up being a big deal. So this is kind of his origin story. But here in the beginning, it just feels like some trolling, because so the backstory is that Samuel's mentor, who's a priest by Eli, Eli has been being a jerk, and his sons have been running amok, being a bit abusive jerks, and Samuel hasn't been doing anything to try to rein them in. So I mean, not Samuel, sorry, Eli. So Eli is not pitched in a good light in the story, and so part of the story is Eli is about to get a holy comeuppance for these shenanigans, but the way this ends up being communicated first through Samuel, but for God to introduce him to Samuel, there's this whole scene where the ark calls out Samuel. Samuel suddenly gets up and goes, whoa, wait, somebody call my name, here I am. And it's like, no, I didn't say anything. And then Samuel goes back to what he is doing, and the ark goes, Samuel. It's like, whoa, hey, I'm here. What's up? No, I didn't call you. And this happens like a few times over. And then finally, like, God stops messing with them and is like, yeah, I'm calling you. So I got a thing I need you to do. And then the story continues. I find that hilarious.
Already, I just see
Samuel Allen Jebediah.
What?
Nothing.
Did you?
No.
I thought you just.
Nope.
Okay.
Samuel.
What?
Hey.
So God's like basically drunk with a walkie-talkie and like
That's what
fucking
it
with kids, like prank calling.
Right. And that's what it reads like. Now I will tell you, as a brief aside, what I have found is that like one of the problems is that when we read not just Jewish or Christian scripture, but anything from the ancient Far East, when we read it straight as modern Westerners, like it's crazy. But if you go back and like actually, like, scholars learn the literary styles and methods employed and stuff like that, like it makes it like usually the really weird stories are the ones that once you understand the literary methods at play, they're really fun stories. Like it's usually there's a lot of subversiveness. Like for example, the Book of Job is a satire, and if you read it as a satire, it's hilarious. So there's a lot of just playfulness in the text. I don't know what the case is with Samuel. I don't know the literary style employed. If anybody is interested in it, I can recommend another podcast, The Bible for Normal People. There's an episode, Pete Enns, Bible scholar. There's a Pete Ruins Samuel is the name of the episode. I'm in the middle of it. I haven't finished yet, but give that a listen if you want to learn some background.
That sounds like a title to a 90s sitcom.
Ruin Samuel.
Pete ruins Samuel.
It does.
They're
So,
just cousins moving in with each other. I don't know.
So that that little tidbit of history aside, back on track here. So you might wonder, like, what is up with this box, this artifact, just audibly speaking to people? Well, the other thing that one might argue doesn't make sense. God doesn't need a
starship
communication device. Like, God can
Oh,
talk to anybody directly. He doesn't need to talk through a box. He doesn't need an artifact to do his talking.
sorry,
That doesn't make any
I
sense,
totally
right?
called this wrong.
You know who would need a device to talk to humans?
Aliens.
Aliens.
So
Exactly.
so God does need a starship, or he doesn't
No.
need a starship because he's got one because aliens.
Exactly. Maybe that's our episode title. God needs a starship. Get some Star Trek fight in there.
No, our title should just be like, "What does God need with a starship?" Lots of things.
Stop asking, just give it. So, Paul Schroeder of UFO Digest.
Oh my gosh, I thought he was about to say in the book of Paul Schroeder in the Bible. What? There's a Paul Schroeder in the Bible?
No,
What?
this is of the other infamous text, UFO Digest. To quote Paul Schroeder,
Yeah, not the Apostle Paul. We're talking about Schroeder, man. We're talking to quote the great Paul Schroeder.
Yes, to quote Paul Schroeder, there is overwhelming biblical evidence that the Ark of the Covenant was structurally designed to act both as an alien transmitter capacitor and a weapon. Overwhelming biblical evidence.
Well, yeah.
Overwhelming. Okay.
I mean, it's giving people cancer, and you can't look at it because let's just assume because it'll melt your face off.
It's too much bling. You can't take in the bling.
What are the motives? Like, why would aliens want to give us some powerful weapon like that?
Ain't that the $1 million question?
Probably so we could be.
It's
It's probably just to screw with us. Like they're all drunk one night on the starship. They're like, "Listen, I got this idea, right? Like, okay, let's just give him this like big giant gold box that gives you cancer, but you can't look at it, otherwise you melt. And let's just see what they do. What is it?
I mean, I guess I could have asked the same thing about God. Like, what are God's motives? Like, why would God give us this weapon?
And then God's over there too. Like, God, what do you think? We're like, hey, you know what? It sounds great. Whatever full arc thinks. I'm down with this. Just yeah, do it.
So the Ark was used to communicate with aliens who were pretending to be God.
Okay, sure.
So the moral of the story here is that good technology looks like magic.
Uh-huh.
So as a side note, Aurora Schroeder, I just love that throughout his writing, he refers to the Old Testament as this UFO document. and I'm here for it.
That's awesome.
I just want to be like, he pulls out the Bible and he's all like, so this UFO document, the Bible? Is that
he's crossed it out and it just reads UFO document on the front in like in hand-drawn pen marker.
The original MUFON.
Better yet, like, what's your proof? This official UFO document. He hands it like, this is just masking tape put over the title of the Holy Bible, and you just wrote in Sharpie this UFO document. Yeah. Okay, just as long as we're on the same page.
So, I was saying those what you might have found some boring details about the construction of this thing. This is where they're relevant. So I hope you're paying attention.
Oh, you've had my attention from the beginning.
So, how about one of those gold plates was positively charged? Another was negatively charged, meaning that the arc as a whole formed a condenser. You with me so far?
So, like,
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense because they're living in the desert. Your air conditioner goes out. You know, you need a condenser.
Yeah, you need a backup generator.
You need a backup. Just do it.
So the cherubim, you remember the cherubim? Two angels on the top of the thing?
Yeah.
How could I
The
forget?
mercy seat? Yeah. So if one of the cherubim above the mercy seat, if we assume that one of them acted as a magnet, if you will, then one could presumably actually serve as a two-way communication device. Yeah. Okay. So, we were talking about you can't handle the bling, you can't look at it, you got to cover it up. So it was specifically covered up with another word I can't pronounce, Trikash skins, basically blue cloth. So to answer Christina's earlier question, why would you cover it up? To serve as a field dampener. Gotta dampen the field, man. You can't just leave it uncovered. That's irresponsible.
Well, how
Okay.
does it doesn't it need to be continuously charged though? So like where is that energy coming from?
It's the source of the energy. This is alien tech, man. It can MacGuffin its way through this.
I'm so I don't science good, so
No. To be fair, we don't alien science good.
Hey, what's happening?
I'm still caught up with the term mercy seat, which is basically what I call my toilet after I've had way too much Taco Bell.
Ew.
I'm just being honest.
So the staves, remember me saying you could never take them out?
Mm-hmm.
The
The
staves
staves stay.
The staves stay. The staves were to stay to ensure sufficient insulation. So we got the staves, we got the veil. It's making sure we got some insulation for all this otherwise, raw energy being contained in this thing.
Were these staves made out of that shitter wood?
They were, if you happen to recall.
Yeah, they're made out. That shitter wood. That's gonna insulate all kinds of stuff. Like when you go down to Poison Desert, Cyanide Desert from the shitter tree, you gotta insulate that alien mumbo jumbo kind of stuff. So
I like that it's not the aliens that phase you; it's that tree. That's your anchor point.
I mean, honestly, aliens at this point. Aliens come up into everything.
It's
like
true.
we've talked about aliens so much that at this point I'm more caught up on the fact that something was called shitter wood in a
Shittum. It wasn't shitter.
Oh, sorry.
I'm probably mispronouncing it.
It's that shittum wood.
It's Hebrew Jewish terminology.
It's that shittum wood in that shitter tree.
If you said it Jewishly, I'm sure it would sound less horrible.
I like saying it like Louisiana, like
yes, which makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah, I made my cabin out of this shittum wood. It's a shitty cabin made from shittum wood from that shitty tree in the Cyanide Desert. Aaron's rod.
So God, and by God I mean the aliens, instructed. I didn't mention this earlier. So God instructed, as detailed in Old Testament, what those who were near the ark would have to wear. So obviously, that was to ensure that their clothes would neither interfere with transmission, nor would they get electrocuted.
Oh.
The veil, the clothing requirements, the staves. This is all just OSHA safety requirements. Okay.
Okay.
Did they have OSHA back then?
Sure they did. So anyway, another detail that I have not brought up yet was that the high priest was to wear a breastplate with 12 gemstones, the stones of fire, if you will, in order to protect himself. Ain't that funny?
Okay.
And then even then, and this is kind of a hoot, even then the high priest would have a rope tied around his waist. So in the event he accidentally got smited on the spot for, I guess, not doing the right thing around the ark, like his priest buddies who are a well safe distance away in another room could pull his body out. So they had precautions in place.
You're about to go in there.
Damn.
They're like, listen, Phil, we're gonna need you to go in there. Is this safe? It's totally fine. Listen, I need you to put this breastplate on. What are these stones? What is this for? They're the fire stones. Come here. Let me put this rope around your waist. Why are you putting a rope around? Why are you holding the other end? It's no reason, Phil. You're fine. You're safe. You're absolutely safe. Go. We believe in you. You've got this.
God bless you.
Bless you.
So all this was to ensure his body could be yanked out in the event that he's lasered.
God.
He was lasered, unfortunately. The breastplate with the infinity stones ×2, it didn't do shit.
All right. So to further feed into this theory is another story, this time from 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 6 for those reading along. This is another story that I personally find hilarious if you read it straight with no context.
That's if you're reading from the official UFO document.
I'm sorry, the official document, yes. So if you just throw literary, styles to the wind and just read it straight, as we like to do over here in America, I personally find the story hilarious. So in 2 Samuel 6, King David is having the ark transported to what is at that point the new capital of Jerusalem, and he's having his buddy by the name of Uzzah and some of his bros handle the transportation of the ark. During the transport, they're carrying the ark, as you would at the time, on top of an ox, the workhorse of the day. But the ox that was carrying it is rattled the ark about a little bit too hard, so the ark starts to tip over off the ox.
Right.
So Uzzah, trying to be diligent, tries to intercept to keep the holy artifact from falling over on the ground. So he touches the ark to try to steady it, which immediately pisses God off, and Uzzah is smitten, whatever the past tense of smite is, on the spot. Your boy be dead. You dead for touching the ark.
He's Ash.
So clearly what actually happened is Uzzah was killed by a massive electrical discharge when he touched it. Oops.
Oopsie doopsie.
That's why we don't touch the ark, man. Come on. You're gonna get electrocuted. Don't touch the alien super death weapon / walkie-talkie with your bare hands. You're gonna get lasered.
I like how you said clearly what happened. This mythological thing.
See, the whole time he's talking, I'm just envisioning another 90s sitcom. Uzzah and his boys. And it's like the whole intro. They're like going through the desert when suddenly the Ark of the Covenant slipped. Oh!
I think I excel at paraphrasing scripture. Thank you.
I mean, it's perfect. Like, I just see the Fox advertisement, like this Thursday night, Uzzah and his bros. Be like,
I can turn any Bible story into a 90s sitcom. That's my special skill. So what again, reading this straight, what makes it just increasingly ridiculous as you keep going. So ark starts to fall over, Uzzah touches it, pisses God off, gets like KO'd right on the spot. So at that, immediately David is pissed. So David gets pissed at God for killing his boy, and he was like, WTF? Why am I even dealing with this ark anyway? It's like, God just got finicky and killed my boy for trying to help. Like, why am I even bothering with this? So David gets pissed and he goes, screw it. David decides to just ditch it over at just some rando dude's house.
It's just some guys that it's just like Shebob and his wife, Kara, and they're just like, I'm a simple father. Hey, here's a big golden Ark of the Covenant. It's got commandments. Don't touch it, you'll die.
But I'm just saying, if you're not, if you don't have too much of a stick up your butt with your theology, like Old Testament can be a ride when you read it, man. I love it. So anyway, drops it off at some rando's house. So the guy's house that now has the ark, God decides to bless the house for having the ark. So David finds out later and goes, "Wait a minute, wait, this dude got blessed for having. I'm taking it back. Come on, I'm taking that thing back now. It's blessing people."
You
No
killed my
David
takesies.
takes it back.
you killed my
Yes,
bro,
he-
and then like just some rando has it, and you're like, blessed be. What?
so David so as this gets zanier, David is so, and this is in character for David. David was a pretty dude who had a party. So David's so excited to get the ark back that like he starts leaping and dancing about, as the scripture says, with all his might. Like he is a happy boy.
I just see him doing the Carlton.
So his wife, or one of them at least, who happened to be King Saul's daughter, which was the previous king who he had a beef with, King Saul's daughter, who David married, Michal, sees David dancing and strutting and stuff, being all happy about this, and despises him for it.
I despise that man's twerking.
Basically, that's how it went down. So because she's just straight up insults David because he's for dancing in the ark's presence, because she finds it some grotesque tomfoolery, if you will. He's
How dare you shaketh thy ass in the presence of the ark?
He's not being very godly, kingly, behaving that way, if you will. I mean,
Those
he's getting. I know some churches that would get him kicked out of. I'm just saying.
those twerking
Yeah.
those twerking buns were not royal.
Right.
Oh my God.
Those were not. That was not the royal way to shake what God gave you.
There's some arks in this house. There's some arks in this house.
So anyway, I bring that up because since she decided to get all pissy about being all stuck up and pissy about David dancing around, that pisses God off, and from that point on, she's stricken with sterility.
Oh.
But what else makes people sterile?
Radiation?
Radiation.
Radiation.
You know what else causes radiation? Cancer.
Wait, cancer doesn't cause radiation.
Vice versa.
Cancer.
Sorry. You know what causes cancer? Radiation.
There we go.
Exactly. So we know what's really up here, right? Okay.
Aliens.
Aliens and radiation.
Bunch of drunk aliens giving us radioactive shit just because for the funsies.
So Paul Schroeder makes the argument that much like God didn't need a trinket to talk to people, God could have smitten Uzzah well before things got that far. So clearly this wasn't the divine being divinely pissed. It was an accident with ancient alien tech. Uzzah just accidentally touched the radioactive electrical death weapon and died as a result, because you shouldn't touch those things.
That's an official term, by the way.
Yes, from the UFO document.
Yeah, radioactive death weapon.
Yes. So the Ark indeed doubled as an alien weapon. So to consider some other tidbits that we would pick up across the breadth of the 500 years of its history in the Old Testament, it would glow with the quote unquote glory of the Lord. And then, as we have discussed, it would kill those that God angered. So in other words, if we reframe this, let's say correctly, the device emitted an electrical field that could be pointed at a target, focused, and then fired. This isn't a holy artifact. This is an alien death laser.
Death laser.
Wow.
So I just want to propose that an alien Ark of the Covenant Pew Pew Death Lazer should be a new t-shirt, because I would wear it. Ark of the Covenant, Pew Pew Death Lazer.
I'll write that down.
Yeah, write it down, Christina. We're on this.
Literally, I am.
Also, potential episode title.
Ark of the Covenant, Pew Pew Death Lazer.
With this newfound realization in mind, let's revisit that attack on Jericho that I mentioned earlier. So Joshua chapter 6, verse 6, the Battle of Jericho, if you recall. Well, God had beforehand told the Israelites, the city is going to be yours for the taking, as long as you follow my specific instructions on how to do it, which was the, unconventional, march around quietly for a week and then blow a bunch of trumpets. So after, a bunch of marching for that week, the siege culminates with them shouting and blowing trumpets, and the walls fall down and the city is promptly sacked, as I said previously.
Yeah.
Which, side note, again, if you're not taking the American, hyper-conservative modern view of things, like I find that story of Jericho to be, a lot of scholars, we believe a lot of the divine truths and stuff, right? But there's nonetheless, like, there's a wee bit of nationalism that the authors let slip in, and I personally feel like the Battle of Jericho is kind of one of those where we're going rah, our state is great and better than everybody else. But anyway, your mileage may vary. Anywho, because otherwise you're trying to argue why Violence for the Lord was great, and that's kind of a hard road to run down. So I find it a bit sus, in my opinion. But the side note I just wanted to throw out, what a kind of a cool detail about the story is there's one person from Jericho that they spare, and again, it's a whole story that's outside the scope of this episode. But the one person they kind of make friends with and spare is a prostitute by the name of Rahab, and this prostitute lady ends up being one of the ancestors of Jesus, and I've always found that pretty cool.
Oh, wow!
I'd mention.
What a family tree of connection. That's neat.
like somehow they knew.
Huh? Well, I mean, yeah, Jews were pretty big they were pretty hardcore, and not just the Jews. I mean, a lot of ancient civilizations, because we didn't have, online records. Like they took like every generation, keep track of genealogy, like hardcore seriously. So
no, say I'm just seeing it like they're like marching through the city with the Ark of the Covenant. They're all like, and they pointed cancer. And they're all like,
cancer. Oh,
cancer, you. And then they come across her and they're like, whoa.
Not her.
Not her. Why? We got plans.
Are you looking at her? No, I was thinking, like, are you looking at her? Chick's hot. Come on.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, we don't want to say anything, but I mean, we're planning ahead. Not her, okay? Not her. Go that way.
So there is a whole narrative to be found about the Rahab story, but is outside the scope of Alien Pew Pew Ark of the Covenant Death Lazer. So anyway, all that to say, what really happened is that the Ark pew pewed the walls down. That's how they got into Jericho. The walls got lasered by the alien death weapon.
See, now I just see them.
Really unfair advantage.
I just see them. I just see them running around with the Ark now, like.
No, rather, go back to your previous, like, they're talking about, is like, oh, here they are again with this trumpet. It's like, what's that?
Oh my God, they blew the trumpet. What the hell are they carrying? Like,
So when I was reading through this, like, the mental image I have not been able to get down out of my mind since is I can only imagine like a bunch of Israelites running around with the Ark making stormtrooper blaster noises. And I want to believe that that's what happened.
But they can't actually ever hit their target, so it's just like all over the place.
Exactly. They eventually take down a wall because it's large enough to be hard to miss.
Yeah.
So my conclusion, and this is not from Schroeder. This is me. This is me putting two and two.
Oh, original idea.
Because I forgot to mention, but I think most people know this. The Ark of the Covenant. I mentioned it was around for 500 years. Recording history, but it disappeared from history. Nobody knows where it is now. So like it's pretty famous for like people to this day trying to find it. Mm-hmm. But I think I know where it is, based on everything we've learned so far. The Jewish space laser is real, and it's the Ark of the Covenant in space.
Oh, what's it doing? What are they using it for?
Yeah, a Jewish space laser. you remember what's her face? Everybody's favorite crazy representative lady that talked about the Jewish space laser, Marjorie Taylor.
No.
What's her face?
Oh, I see. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. That's a gem from her mouth. And like,
wow.
Now that I'm going back, it's like, maybe there is a Jewish space laser, and it's the Ark of the Covenant. We know where it is. It's a space.
God.
I'm not comfortable with this.
I know. I was like, this feels kind of like we're starting to be anti-Semitic.
No, because it's not. This isn't a Semitic weapon. It's an alien weapon. We're being anti whatever aliens are.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we shooting aliens out of space then?
Sure. So I got nothing for love. I got nothing for love for all our various Semitical people.
Okay.
Yes, this is a safe place for all.
This is a safe place for everybody.
Everybody, even aliens, so long as you are not actively trying to kill us with Ark of the Covenant death lasers, pew pew lasers.
Exactly. So, if we go back to 1 Samuel chapter 5, if everyone will turn their Bibles to page 1 Samuel chapter 5, that's when I was talking about, the statue of Dagon falling over and over and over again. So that was because of an earthquake. That and all the tumors that everybody got were, Christina called it was a side effect of the ark's radiation bursts.
Knew it.
Come on, what else was it?
I mean, that's
obviously it was so obvious.
It was obvious to me. I said it too. You just giving Christina all the point. You're like, Christina called. We all called it. It was obvious.
Chris,
Sorry.
You can't let me have something. Like, seriously.
Right. I apologize. I retract the statement. Now I'm ashamed.
You were too busy with the tree.
The shitum tree?
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to want to change it again.
So another fun little tidbit is in 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 8. 1 Kings 8.
Those in your official UFO documentation book.
If you turn to your official UFO document. So this is the point in Old Testament history where King Solomon builds the temple to God, which, if you know in the Old Testament stuff, this is a really, really, really big deal in both Judaism and Christian, scriptural history. But anywho, what's of note for us is that when the temple was built, the ark was placed within the Holy of Holies, which is like the super holy part of the temple, to put really dumbed down words. It was positioned in such a way that the gold-plated staves touched the veil. This was a veil that separated. So let me back up. I guess I should explain that. The Holy of Holies was so holy, if you will. It was supposed to be kind of the place where like God himself actually like physically manifested and dwelled inside the temple. So not anybody could just waltz in there. So they would have it cut off from the rest of the temple via a veil. So that was the point of the veil. Which from the Christian side of scripture, that's why like at the time that Jesus died, the veil tears in half, and it was kind of symbolic of like there's no longer a division, between God and everybody. So anywho, all that to say that just to give you the visual of where everything's positioned, the ark's placed in the Holy of Holies, and its position so the staves are touching the veil. So it's what am I trying to say? I'm saying that if you visualize this thing sitting in this little bitty room, the staves are touching something, because the Holy of Holies was actually its charging station.
Yeah.
So it was docked when not in use.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like one of those Tesla charging stations.
Exactly. It was a Tesla charging station.
Yeah, it's just a docking station. And when it's full bars, you may remove your Ark of the Covenant. but not until then.
So, I was saying like not anybody could waltz in there. And in fact, if you go to Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, in chapter 16, Moses and his posse are told, like, just do not enter, except with the exception of on occasion, at a very specific times during the year, you can go in to do very specific rituals. But the rest of the time, don't go in. Do not enter. Stay away. I'm telling you, for real, guys. That's what the scripture says. All right. So that's all because that's just to protect them from exposing themselves to too much radiation at once.
And you wouldn't want them exposing themselves
to radiation.
Yes.
To radiation.
Can I ask, do we know what the veil was made of?
Yes, it was the thing I horribly pronounced earlier. The Takash skins.
Wow.
Okay.
Was it was so harsh on the pronunciation.
Well, it's a cool word. I just don't know how to pronounce it.
I know, it was just the way you pronounce it though. It's like most people like, these are Dacashians. Oh, Dacashians.
The way it looks
forgot about that one.
It looks harsh to me because it's like Tachash. You have a CH and an SH in the same word. This is some pretty intense consonant usage going on, if you ask me.
Wait,
it's very serious.
Very serious.
Spell that again.
Tachash.
Hash.
Yeah, something like that. So if you don't pronounce it in the Klingon, that's how it sounds.
No, I'm saying I want to say I've heard this word before somewhere.
Oh, sure.
Dakash, or it's I think it's like if I'm so sorry. I think it's something along like Takash or Takash, like because I'm going off on a change really quick. I remember we were watching a documentary several years ago, and it was all about Hebrew and Aramaic pronunciations. And I remember kind of being interested by the pronunciations of certain words about, and I want to say they were talking, that sounds familiar actually now. So anyway, sorry.
Well,
so the holiest part of the ark was called the oracle. And that's the part that everybody would hear the talking coming from. So that's where Moses could audibly hear God's orders. It's, screwing around with Samuel, calling him multiple times over and saying, just kidding, all that talking coming from the oracle. So that tells us that the oracle was actually a speaker positioned over the ark in between the two cherubim, whose wings, if you will, doubled as battery terminal poles.
Oh, James, and I want to interject really quick here. All serious. So I looked it up. I found it. Dakash is actually traditionally an animal, but it's the skin that's used in the tabernacle as the outer covering of the tent of the tabernacle, and it's always used in biblical scriptures to wrap sacred objects. So that's why.
Okay. That makes sense. I figured it was like some type of leathery something or another.
Yeah, it pops up a lot. It pops up a lot in Exodus and Ezekiel.
Christina has a question for the glass.
I'm raising my hand. So, okay, we have an oracle now, and we're saying that there's a speaker, but is it possible that like the shit it's all emitting is like fucking with the human brain, so we think that we're hearing a voice, like kind of like the Delphi oracles? There's a gas that's emitted from the mountain, and so they start kind of going into these weird trance-like states or whatever.
If it's emitting radiation, like you suggested, yeah, I would say it's possible. I know that hallucinations are one of, I want to say, can be a symptom of radiation poisoning. James is smiling.
So I like how we're totally down with the radiation. It's like that speaker, that's a little too much.
I'm not saying that's a little too much. Listen, I'm on board with ancient aliens. I'm riding along. I'm just posing something alternate. Like,
yes,
could it be something like that?
I mean, I don't see why you'd write it off.
Here, anything is possible. We don't write things off. This is an open, safe place. If you have a theory, you state it, and it will be welcomed always.
No,
okay. Anyway, a speaker.
To your point, Christina, to your point, to give some credence to your point, remember that when I was saying that God would, I think I said this already. So God was supposed to appear when he manifested, like at the ark, like appear between those two cherubim on the lid.
Yeah.
It was as a cloud.
Okay.
So that would line up with your theory of stuff. Your theory of stuff.
Emitting stuff.
Because I'm good with words.
Me too. We nailed it. We got it.
These words word.
So this chapter, and if you remember, we're in Leviticus 16. This explains how God sometimes appears. How could you forget? This chapter explains how God sometimes appears as a cloud between the two cherubim, and how one might die if they just traipse in there all willy-nilly whenever they want to.
Nobody appeared. He's like, I'm a little rain cloud.
Christopher.
God's manifesting, and you're expecting this, something magnificent and mighty and room filling, and just poof, a little happy cloud. What I would do.
It's just like the Almighty, like, oh, I'm a little rain cloud.
I'm a little happy rain cloud. I do think if you give the Old Testament a proper sense of a proper reading, in my opinion, like God obviously has a sense of humor, and I could see it. I could see it happening.
Well, yeah, you said the platypus.
Exactly. Anywho, so the cloud was actually due to the transmitter smelling of ozone. It was a little ozone cloud due to the transmitting. That's what was actually happening. Just so you know.
I'm a little ozone cloud.
A little ozone cloud.
I like to interject really quick of how much I love that every time James is trying to find his place again, he basically turns into a trumpet. Like, anyway.
Welcome to my life.
Radiation aliens, pew pew.
So this is also why there were those specific clothing instructions, and like I went up and I went back into those to the chapters of discretion to find those instructions. So specifically in Old Testament wording, those priests were supposed to wear a holy linen tunic, linen undergarments, a linen sash, and a linen turban, or as you might otherwise word it, be dressed entirely in linen.
Yeah.
So that's why it's some linen insulation, because I guess as somebody who doesn't know the science at all, sure, why not linen? I'm sure that works.
Linen.
I feel like
it's all
linen isn't gonna. I feel like linen isn't gonna protect you from radiation and shit, but maybe
it is either. But
it is really comfy though. Like if you've ever worn,
it is so comfortable.
Linen sheets. I love linen sheets. Like just fresh linen sheets. It's like, you almost think it could protect you from alien Pew Pew Death Lasers, but that's the lie.
No.
So I am going to call Schroeder out on one thing that I don't see eye to eye with him yet, with him on. So if you all please turn in your UFO documents to Book of Numbers 35. Verse 5, and also to Joshua chapter 4, verse 5, also to be found in your UFO document. According to Schroeder's read of these two chapters from these two books, he got out of it that the ark was carried 2,000 cubits, which he converts to a mile, or nearly just short of a mile, if you will. The ark was carried just short of a mile in front of everybody during the march. I mentioned that earlier. Because a specific circumference of range was required, between the ark and everybody else to ensure that the radiation didn't reach them. That's the reason you carried the ark that far ahead of everybody.
Okay.
Now, the reason I don't get where he's coming from, because I went back and like checked out those chapters. So Numbers 35, that chapter says nothing about the ark whatsoever. Weirdly enough, it's just like instructions on how to build cities for Levitical priests. So it's like the urban planning chapter. So I don't get where he got like arc stuff from that. It's yield urban planning.
Could he have made it up?
Right. UFO Digest. This is a professional publication, folks.
I mean, to interject really quick, you said for Levitical priests.
Yeah.
I always remember in Leviticus, and I remember listening to the Bible Project, I think is what it's called. And when they were talking about the book of Leviticus and all the things that the priests had to go through to purify themselves. And it was interesting because I was thinking about that earlier when you were mentioning the things that they had to do, when like God's presence came down in order to protect themselves, because that's what the Leviticus priests had to do in book of Leviticus when he comes down from the mountain and he resides in the tent in order to be standing in his presence. I don't know.
I don't remember all of Leviticus that well, but that's probably elsewhere in Leviticus. This particular chapter is like the cities you're building for the priest to live in. It was like quite, at least the layman here, it struck me as the urban planning chapter.
Yeah,
it wasn't too terribly exciting.
It just seems to me like I can see, I don't know, maybe I don't know. It's just, I almost see like a link, like it seems a lot about protecting the Leviticus priests by something.
Yeah.
It's always about like, you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to follow these instructions to keep the Leviticus priests safe or protected, or just you need to do this for them.
Definitely with like the linen clothing and all that jazz. So but yeah, that specific chapter is the urban planning chapter, in my opinion. And then Joshua is the story about the that whole Jordan River crossing I told you about, and it doesn't mention anything about cubits of distance. So I don't know where he got this whole like circumference of distance to protect from radiation from those two chapters, because neither of them have anything to say about that. Thought that was kind of sus. The other chapters he referenced, I can validate. Like he was he was referencing stuff that was legitimately there. It's just those two I took issue with. Anyway, the lesson we get from all of this is that we have to be careful with what we assume is from God, because in truth, the gray reptilian aliens were masquerading as God the whole time through the Old Testament, and they were puppeteering the Hebrews and imposing harsh rules and punishments that just don't fit the character of the all-loving God, according to Schroeder.
Mm-hmm. Those lizard people are always trying to fuck us over. So
yeah. Did you see the wait lists at the Denver airport?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to talk about that. Okay, so I'm glad that we solved that mystery, but we have another mystery to figure out. What happened to it? Why did it disappear from history after its 500 years on the stage? Where'd it go? So some notes to just put in your back pocket, keep in the back of your head as you're thinking about this. The Babylonian Empire famously conquered Israel around 587 and 586 BC. To put some dates on some stuff for a timeline. And to this point, that's the point that the ark vanishes from history. That's the last, like after that, we hear nothing more of the ark. Just, it gets no exits, no fanfare, just everybody stops talking about it. So we would it should have been, if everybody was doing what they're supposed to be doing, it should have been inside the temple in Jerusalem when the Babylonians came doing the invading. That should have been where they would have found it. So some believe that the prophet Jeremiah secretly snuck away with the Ark when the Babylonians rolled into town around the 6th century BCE. So they think our boy Prophet Jeremiah, he gets his own book in the Old Testament, that he stole away with it. And that would have been the last we heard of it. He hid it somewhere. Others claim that the Ark was hidden beneath the first temple in Jerusalem before the Babylonians destroyed the temple in 586 BC. So all this is Babylonian invasion within those couple of years as we're on the timeline. So those are a couple of ideas. Either Joshua hid it, or they did a good job burying it under the temple and no one's found it since. And the temple, of course, doesn't exist anymore. And regarding the being under the temple, regarding that theory, that can't be confirmed because obviously digging under that site isn't possible, given that site is a little known place that we like to call nowadays the Dome of the Rock. Some people don't tend to be too thrilled with the idea of you going doing some excavation under the Dome of the Rock. Search me why. But it's not a popular idea. So
okay, I'm ignorant.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So the Dome of the Rock. That's the famous / infamous site that is holy to Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And throughout history, everybody is fighting over it, over like whose state, gets to claim it. So it's part of the whole, modern day beef with Israel and all that kind of jazz, because all three religions, lay claim to the Dome of the Rock.
Wait.
Okay.
Is this the rock that supposedly Muhammad stood on and saw the vision of Moses, and he was ascended into heaven, and he was given his visions, or I don't know.
I don't remember. I read on it before and it's slipping my memory. I want to say I think so, but I may be horribly, embarrassingly wrong.
Because it's also, if I remember in art history, I remember this. It's also supposed to be the stone which Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac on, and then when the angel stopped him, so that's like its connection to Christianity. I don't know if this is the same as this is the rock we're talking about. I just know from art history and history class itself, there is a stone that is claimed by both Christianity and Islam between Muhammad and then the story of Abraham. And yeah, I don't know if that's the same one.
Yeah, whatever the case, it's a big religious deal. It's all three religions, and the subsets of each of those religions that cares about that thing, about such things. They're pretty worked up about it. Let's say, let's put it that way. Which is why you can't dig under it to find out if the Ark of the Covenant is there. So, like, the thing we really want to know, it just the party's ruined because we can't go digging and find out. Like, people need to lighten up about their.
The only thing that matters, and they won't let us do it.
I want to find out about the alien death laser. Come on, guys. Can we just pause long enough for me to dig and find out if there's alien death laser there or not? Come on.
Seems reasonable.
So, some authors believe that it's buried under Mount Tsurugi. It's Mount Tsurugi in Japan. That is because, that's not because. I actually don't know why that is. That was a rabbit hole that would have gone a while and probably been an episode of its own. But just FYI, some people think it's Japan for reasons. But so a Japanese historian by the name of Takane Masanori actually tried to excavate the mountain, but it was canceled due to, and I'm going to put quotations around it, environmental reasons.
They didn't want him tearing up the mountain. They're like, stop, you maniacs.
So another theory, and I'm just going to touch on it because it's a long story all to itself, that perhaps we'll come back to. Some believe that the Knights Templar found it in Jerusalem, and they took it away, perhaps to live in the this is French. I don't know how to pronounce it. Chartres Cathedral. Within that cathedral's crypt, or somewhere in a region I also can't pronounce, Languedoc, or
Languedoc.
yeah, that, or perhaps the Templars took it to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. So maybe the Ark/alien death weapon is hidden in a chapel in Scotland. Maybe the Scottish have it, and they just not telling us.
That's the one I've heard. Not the Scotland thing, but the Knights Templar took it and moved it somewhere, and that's like a place in Africa too, but I forget what it's called.
Ah,
if the Scottish have it, it's safe.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Christina,
Oh!
because let's forget all those other theories, because there's a group of folks that today claim that they have the Ark right now.
What?
And the Ark is actually located at the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, which is in Africa.
What
All right.
country?
This is a cathedral in the town of Axum in Ethiopia.
Okay.
And they claim that the Ark isn't even hidden at all. They have it. It's right there.
They're like, it's right here.
Yeah. People being crazy. So the story goes, or this narrative goes, so outside of the scriptural texts, outside of Jewish or Christian scriptures, there's this ancient Ethiopian text called the Kebra Nagast. Again, I don't know how to pronounce things. Kebra Nagast is how I'm phonetically reading it. But this ancient Ethiopian text, it records a tale of the Queen of Sheba paying a visit to King Solomon roundabouts 950 BCE. And according to those records, Sheba goes visit Solomon. They take a liking to each other, and they do the royal nasty, if you will. And out pops a little boy by the name of Menelik. And Menelik grows up to become the king of Ethiopia. So his daddy Solomon, his mama's Queen of Sheba. Like, talk about some bragging rights.
Yeah, that's some royal blood right there.
That's an ancestry.com tree for the ages.
Yeah.
So Menelik's dynasty would reign all the way from, again, son of Solomon and Sheba. His dynasty would reign all the way to 1974 in Ethiopia.
Whoa.
So Menelik, throughout his life, would pay the occasional visit to Daddy Solomon. But on the way home from one such visit, some nobles tagged along with Menelik, who, unbeknownst to King Menelik, these nobles had swiped the Ark in secret and replaced it with a fake.
Oh shit!
They did a swaparoo.
They took it in
How did they have all
secret.
the? Well, I guess the specs, the IKEA specs, were in the Bible, so they just
Right, it's recorded. They knew how to build a knockoff. Any of us could build a knockoff if we're handy enough. So Menelik doesn't find out about this until he's all the way back home. So at this point, he's home. Oops, I have an Ark. And at that point, he figures, it's God's will. So he decides to keep it. So the Ark has remained there for the 3,000 years since. And this is all according to the Ethiopian church that sits there to this day. So the story about this church band is cool. Like, I am all about this church. It's really interesting because the way this church operates, they have the Ark of the Covenant. And if we had access to it, we could go verify it. The thing is, they're not going to let us look. And that's because that only the guardian of the ark may see it. So the guardian is a virgin monk. And this is, this is a role that gets passed from monk to monk over the ages. So this is a virgin monk who guards the ark his entire life, and he can never leave the building. So he is married to that ark. Boy's not seeing the light of day outside a window. And curiously, each guardian somehow always has a short lifespan.
Tumas.
It is a tumor.
But forget that. We actually know what's actually up with the ark.
Forget what?
We have enough or better explanation.
What am I supposed to?
You know where the ark actually went? It went to the pyramid.
Wait, what?
The Pyramid of Giza, the Great Pyramid of Giza. That's where it went.
Obviously.
How come the Pyramid of Giza is a tomb, but has no bodies in it? How come that?
Because it's an energy source.
I thought there were bodies in it.
You're on fire today, dude.
I watch a lot of ancient alien shit.
So the Pyramid of Giza was built for Pharaoh Khufu, but he ain't there. Dude's body's nowhere to be found. There's not even any treasure in it. You know how the pharaohs were all about keeping their bling in the tombs with them.
They need it for the afterlife to pay their way. Yeah.
Exactly. No Khufu, no bodies, no bling. That's because it's not a tomb. The Pyramid of Giza is an electrical power plant. So I'm going to save a little bit of this for a future time because, again, this is a whole thing. But in short, the pyramid's covered in limestone, which is a great insulator. Its tunnels are lined with granite, an electrical conductor, and it's topped with a capstone of gold, one of the most conductive materials on Earth. Indeed, even a legitimate, actual science, not crazy people science, actual legit real-life science dudes, an international research group concluded, and remember I cited at phys.org, this is actual science journal stuff. Their group concluded the pyramid could, they're not saying it did, they're just saying it could serve to focus electromagnetic energy with the way it's built. That's science, all right? Deep within the pyramid, and here's the kicker. Deep within the pyramid, in the oddly kingless king's chamber, only one object was found. An entirely empty stone coffer that was curiously the exact size of the Ark of the Covenant.
No.
Coincidence? I think not.
So, 1745, a Dutch scientist by the name of Pieter van Musschenbroek, I don't know how to pronounce that either, but I sure felt cool saying that. He invented what he would call his Leyden jar. The Leyden jar was a glass jar with metal foil inside and out of it, which would serve as a capacitor for storing atmospheric electrical charges. Benjamin Franklin would call it Musschenbroek's wonderful bottle. So another scientist and one of the founding fathers of electrical science, George Wilhelm Lichtenberg, he opined that perhaps the Ark of the Covenant was a Leyden jar. So during the century that follows, the 1800s, up pops up another science dude, the British inventor by the name of Sir William Siemens. He and his team climbed the Great Pyramid.
Siemens.
I knew that was coming, dude. I knew it when I said it. So Siemens and his boys, they climbed Giza and they got to the summit. So here's where it gets interesting. So once they're at the summit, one of his guides raises his hand and spreads his fingers, at which point a high-pitched ringing assaulted their ears. A curious Siemens raised his hand as well, and he felt a tingle run through his body. A few moments passed.
Siemens felt it.
a tingle. Go on.
Siemens felt a tingle. Did Siemens feel a tingle?
Yes. Feel better now. So Siemens felt a tingle. And that tingle ran through his entire body.
Oh, I'll bet it did.
I was waiting.
A few moments passed. And then
he was ready to go again.
Well, no. So he had packed it with him on the hike up. He takes a sip of wine from this bottle they had for celebratory purposes once they reached the summit. So he takes a sip of wine from their bottle, from the bottle, only for his lips to be zapped upon touching it. So Siemens MacGyvers together right there on the spot a sort of Leyden jar of his own, using the bottle and some wet newspaper. He takes his MacGyver Leyden jar, lifts it over his head, and sparks shoot out of the top of it. So one of the guides was spooked, and he actually tried to yank the bottle away from Siemens, only for the shock of doing so to knock him onto his back and unconscious.
Oh, shit.
Because the last thing you want.
Oh my God. I love you.
Is to be on your back with Siemens around.
Wow, you'll be shocked on your back.
That Siemens was electrifying.
Wow. So, knowing all of this, could it be that an ark that was actually, for all intents and purposes, a Leyden jar, and a pyramid built suspiciously electricity friendly, with an arc-shaped hole within it? Could those two things be related?
Nah.
What is an arc-shaped hole? So the ark powered the Pyramid of Giza. It was the power source.
Fuck yeah, it did.
It's the battery. So let's go back to those instructions that God gave Moses. Mm-hmm. Those instructions included some details for, and I didn't mention it at the time, but it also included details for how to build the tabernacle around the ark that the ark was going to be in the middle of.
Oh. So
funnily enough, the instructions for building the tabernacle would include 150-foot gold poles with gold chains hanging from them. Rather conductive, if you will. So what if, just to play a thought exercise, what if when Moses freed the Israelites from Egypt, they stole as much treasure as they could carry on their way out, which could have included the Egyptians' electrical power plant supercapacitor?
Yes, because fuck them.
Because what happened to Egypt in history from that point on, the great Egypt would begin to slowly crumble and would never again achieve its previous greatness because it didn't have its power source anymore. It turned the power grid off.
You convinced me.
So, another rabbit hole to go down on another day, and I just want to drop it as a tease. Authors would take interest in the topics of electricity and pyramids, such as Nikola Tesla.
Oh, this is I see. This is a complete damn rabbit hole.
Coming soon.
Yeah, tune in, little podcasters of horror. It's coming.
Podcasters.
You little podcasters of horror.
The end.
That was so good.
Question mark.
Oh my God. How do you do this?
It.
How do you do this?
You got me. I'm hooked. I can't wait for the next episode.
Well.
Oh my gosh.
So pick your rabbit hole. You want to learn more about the Great Pyramid being an electrical power plant, or Siemens climbing the top and getting zapped, or Nikola Tesla taking interest, or what do the aliens do later? And
I want all three, and I want you to add in more about the Japan mountain thing.
I want to find out more about that. Like,
You-
everything I was researching was like a footnote, and I'm like, wait a minute.
You know what?
You have your next 4 topics right there. Do not give up on this.
You know what? For this specific episode, I'm going to put in you vote, viewers vote of which 4 of the 4, which one do you want to hear next? And depending on the vote tally by the end of I would say by the end of the next 2 weeks, that's the order in which we will go in. So you, the viewers, I would say let's let the viewers decide. What do you guys think?
No, I love that. And if you're going to vote, though, you need to do it on Spotify, right? Because that's where it's
Yes.
going to be. Yeah.
Yes, it will be on Spotify. So you can easily access it on Spotify.com. It should be in the show notes, and just scroll down. You should see what's what I'm trying to say. You should see, what is it?
It's like a Q&A thing. I think that's what it is called, but it will be a poll, and you'll have options.
The poll, that's what I was trying to say. So you should be able to scroll down and see the poll, and please put in your vote of what you would like to hear of the 4 options that we just listed, which one you want to hear next. And when the poll closes, we will go in that order. James, do you concur? He's nodding his head for all you.
Yeah, he nodded like he's so absent.
He forgets that sometimes that they can't see him. Bless his heart.
You can see me on your speakers, right?
Yeah. So, oh my God.
I
James,
loved it. That was
yes.
so good.
I was hooked through the whole episode. I know I was making jokes left and right, but damn, that was an interesting.
So I do want to throw in as kind of a side disclaimer, especially since he mentioned it for good measure earlier. So we like to have a laugh at everybody and ourselves and all good fun, but be careful not to throw the Jews under the bus on this one. Don't do an anti-Semitism. That's being a dick. Don't do it.
No.
Don't.
But
Especially
these are some fun stories, and I am all down for some ancient Pew Pew space death lasers. I'm here for it.
So yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. And like I said, be sure to vote in the poll that we will have posted to this episode, as Christina
Most important
mentioned.
vote you'll ever take.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Sadly, that is not even remotely true. If you have anything that you would ever like to share, you can always email us or if you have any questions, you can always email us at littlepodcasthorrors@gmail.com.
Don't put it up in there, because we don't know who's going to get it if you do that.
Yeah, don't put the up.
It will not be us.
And then of course we have a website, littlepodcastofhorrors.com.
That has the up in it.
Yes.
We're unpredictable. You never know when we're going to include the up or not. It's so you got to pay attention.
Exactly. And we have a Patreon. Can you guess?
What is
Little
it?
podcast of horrors.
Exactly.
Patreon.com.
Yes. Other than that, thanks for joining us for today. And, keep it spooky. Ooh.
Love you.
Bye.